Today, we'd like to welcome you to the Virginia Farm to School Toolkit webinar series. This is a collaboration of the Virginia Cooperative Extension and the Virginia Department of Education School Nutrition Programs. I'm Amber Vallotton, and I'm the Produce Safety Extension Specialist at Virginia Tech. And I'm joined here by my colleague, Stuart Vermack, who's the Food Safety Extension Agent and Director, who's based in Loudoun County. And we're both the co-leads for the Virginia Cooperative Extension Farm to School program team. This webinar series is designed to support and explain each chapter of the Virginia Farm to School Toolkit, which was developed to guide VCE Extension agents, school division administrators, school nutrition professionals, educators, school garden coordinators, and others towards using farm to school practices as a means to increase equitable access to fresh, healthy Virginia-grown food, while also providing hands-on learning opportunities in a variety of educational settings. Today's webinar is entitled Sparking a Love of Local Food and Farming After-School Programs, and this is based on Chapter 8 of the Toolkit. We're really excited to be joined today by three panelists who will be sharing their stories about how they have sparked a love of local food and farming. First, we will hear from Nicole Collins, who's a 4-H Extension agent in Fauquier County. Nicole runs the Eleanor Hazel 4-H After School program and will be telling us about her All About Ag series. Then we will hear from Kristen McCullough, Fresh Supervisor. Fresh stands for Fauquier Reaches for Excellence in School Health. And Kristen will be telling us about their Harvest of the Month training program and tasting program. Finally, we will hear from Megan Dyer, who's a 4-H Extension agent in Page County. Megan takes lead on the in-school Read for Health program, which is offered in partnership with their school nutrition team. We'd like to thank each of you so much for being here today. As we jump into this, we've asked our panelists to share their stories, and then we will have a few follow-up questions, and we'll open up the rest of the webinar for any questions that you as participants might have. Please feel free to add any questions to the chat box as the panelists are speaking so that we can then get their perspectives once they present their slides. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Nicole.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nicole Hollins, Fauquier County Extension Agent, and I specialize specifically in an after-school program that was created mostly from money from the Eleanor Hazel Family Foundation. So my program is mainly STEM focused. So I'm not necessarily farm to school specific, but my All About Ag series does kind of bridge that gap a little bit because we talk about different agricultural products, and I do introduce the students to some fresh foods. So the Eleanor Hazel 4-H After School program aims to offer free, high-quality after-school programming to youth that would not have the ability to participate in extracurricular activities outside of school. Participants meet weekly for a 6-session series to engage in educational STEM activities to help spark and cultivate a passion for learning. So some of the series that I've offered outside of the All About Ag series are Explorers of the Unknown, Robot Hotshots, Wacky Electronics, and Outdoor Explorers. But today we're going to be focusing on the All About Ag series. So the All About Ag series aims to educate students about agricultural products, related careers, the role that agriculture plays in our everyday lives, and to introduce them to fresh foods and give them an opportunity to try, something fresh in maybe a way that they hadn't before. And during the program, I try to make plugs for some of our 4-H clubs. It's a bit of a tongue twister, for the livestock projects that we offer. And we also have a club called the Next Generation Entrepreneurs, where several of our youth have vendor stands that they set up at the farmers market in town and sell either crafts that they make, or some of them grow flowers and some of them grow squash and, different vegetables and stuff like that to sell. So one of the series that I mainly focus on is the All About Ag. We just finished that series last month. And each week we meet and talk about a different agricultural product. So we did a session on bees. And students were able to learn about honeybees and how they care for their hive and how they pollinate flowers. And my program is very experiential learning based. So the students participated in a pollination simulation where they got to be worker bees and practice going to flowers and collecting the pollen and the nectar and then returning to the hive and cleaning up the hive. And then we did a little experiment with borax to, make honey. And then at the end, students got to make a banana honey pop, which was basically just a banana with some honey on it. And then they could put toppings on it like Cocoa Puffs or red sprinkles. And then we also kind of talked about how some of the other products that they were using on their banana pops came from agriculture, like the red coloring in a lot of their candies comes from the shellac beetle, secretions from the shellac beetle, which they all thought was really gross, but it didn't stop them from eating their food. Another one that we did was extracting strawberry DNA. So this one was really fun because they got to kind of do like a hands-on STEM science experiment. They made an extraction solution and mashed up their strawberries and then strained it out and collected their strawberry DNA, which looks a bit like snot, to be honest. And then after that, we made a snack using strawberries, and I had a lot of students with allergies in this program. So we kind of had to modify my original idea for the snack and use marshmallow fluff and gluten-free graham crackers. But I was surprised at how many kids told me that they didn't like strawberries, but if you put marshmallow fluff on them, they will eat anything. So every single kid in my program ate the strawberries, even though several of them told me they don't like strawberries. Then we did a series on apples, and students learned about the apple life cycle, the different types of apples, the anatomy of an apple. They learned about oxidation and how it turns their apples brown. And then we conducted an experiment where we tried putting apple slices in different solutions, including milk, vinegar, lemon juice, and tried to see which substances would help keep the apple from oxidizing and turning brown. And then while we were waiting for that experiment to happen, I challenged the kids to see if they could make a tower out of nothing but apples and toothpicks. And they had to be able to let go and have it still stand. And then the winner got a prize. So that was a lot of fun. And the kids, again, a lot of them told me that they didn't like apples, but our snack was apples with the caramel dip, and pretty much all of them ate that as well. Pumpkin Peddlers is one that I've done for the last 2 years, and it's a lot of fun. The kids really like it. We learned about pumpkins, the life cycle of pumpkins. And then the students, we talk about the scientific method because the students have to guess how many seeds they think are going to be in their pumpkin. And then we gut the pumpkin and pull everything out of them, and the kids have to count the seeds. And then I tell them how much money I spent on their pumpkin, and have them calculate how much money they could make if every single seed that they pull out of their pumpkin grew into a pumpkin for them to sell next year. So the kids have a good time doing that. And then they all want to take the seeds home with them and plant pumpkin seeds, which is a lot of fun. And then for that snack, we made pumpkin pie in a cup, which was another really popular snack. And the kids really enjoyed eating that one too. And then we did a grain series in the past where we talked about the difference between whole grains and refined grains. And the students ground grains into flour, and then made tortillas in a bag that we would then made on like a hot plate. And the kids got to put, I think we did cream cheese when we did that one. So they got to top them with different flavored cream cheese. And most of the kids ate it, but there was pretty good consensus that it didn't taste as good as like tortillas that they buy from the store. So we kind of talked about that. So when I do the All About Ag series, my goal is to kind of educate them about an agricultural product, and then kind of give them a hands-on experience with it. It's like tangible to them, and they can have that takeaway. And I'm hoping that in the future, I can make a stronger effort to pair with local farms and things like that to get my supplies, because this is only my second year running this program. And so far, Walmart is still kind of the convenient choice, but I would like to start pairing with local farms to get my materials from them when I do this series. So there's still room for advancement. And I think that's about all I've got.
Nicole has to scoot off the call in a minute, but I wanted to open up if anybody had any questions for Nicole before she has to leave. This is really some great stuff that you're doing, and exciting to see that. So does anyone who's a participant, if you want to just unmute yourself, we can take your questions.
Hey Nikki, this is Shelly. We just met at the new agent conference. We worked together on a couple of things. I just want to say it's really interesting to see more about your programs. I know you told me that you were doing primarily STEM programs and stuff, but they're really cool. I didn't realize they were sort of, food related.
Thank you. Yes, I remember meeting you. Yeah, it's like I said, it kind of depends on the series that I'm doing, but I try to keep it kind of broad. So like each series kind of focuses on a specific area. I'm now doing a robotics series, and then in the spring I do an outdoor explorers series, which kind of ties back into farming a little bit, but it's not as food centric as my ag series is.
Yay, it sounds so hands-on and fun though.
Thank you.
Hey Nicole, is it the same kids for like when you do the ag one and then you do the robotics one? Is it the same group of kids for the for the 6 weeks? I assume it's the same kids, but then every time you do a different version, is it a different group?
Yeah, so the for every 6 weeks, work with the same kids for that 6 weeks, and my age group also changes. So the All About Ag series that I just finished was third through fifth graders, and my robotics series that I'm currently doing is kindergarten through second graders. So I meet with a group of students once a week for 6 weeks, and then after those 6 weeks are up and the series changes, it's a new group of students. Sometimes
Okay.
there's overlap, and sometimes the same kids will,
Yeah, sure.
repeats, but yeah.
And is it, did you create this curriculum from scratch? Is it an adaptation? Is it something else?
So it's a little bit of both. The All About Ag series was actually a series that Lena Wen had come up
Mhm.
with because this whole program was kind of her brainchild. She's the one that created this idea of the program. So she had done like a sort of test program to see how it would work and how it would be received. And so, like, the bee lesson plan was from her, and the grain lesson plan was from her. But then, since I have taken the position and I'm running it full time now, I have a lot of lesson plans that I have developed myself, or some of them that I pull from resources offline and adapt them to how I want to use them. So it's
Great.
it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Nicole. This is great.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We're going
Sorry,
to
go ahead.
move on now to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. Kristen McCullough with the Fresh program, and we're thrilled to share our What's Fresh Harvest of the Month program with you all today. Those of you familiar with the VDOE Harvest of the Month, it's very similar. We actually just happened to start this a few years prior to when their program was developed. Essentially, we had a chef on staff, and she worked with area farmers to identify what items would be available each month. And so each month we highlight a different item. A couple months, there's multiple items. There might be 2 items that are highlighted. But for each month, I'll share with you the resources that we have available for download on our website. Each month, we create a What's Fresh poster, and that kind of gives just some basic nutrition information to folks, and that's available in both English and Spanish. You can see this poster is actually bilingual. The English is on one side, the Spanish is on the other. All of our other documents are separate PDFs where one is in English, and we also have it available in Spanish. In addition to the nutrition poster, the other thing we share with our schools are ways to try it. That's the poster that you see in the middle, just different ways that students would experience it or see it in their environment. And then on the right-hand side, you see a recipe. So each of the Harvest of the Month items we have paired with at least one recipe, if not multiples. Also available on our website, if you want to go to the next slide, we have a life cycle poster. And in the middle, you can see we have paired those items with a math component, both for elementary K-2 and 3-5 students. And then on the far right-hand side, you see 2 different icons. The top one is our life cycle video. So we've actually taken our posters and animated them so students can see the actual life cycle process. And that process is put to a song. So we had a teacher a few years back who created an original song for each one of the nutritional items, each one of the What's Fresh items to share nutritional information with the students in a fun and engaging way. And so in the bottom right, you also have a link to the videos that were created by our teacher. And like I said before, all of these resources are in English and Spanish, and they're available for download on the What's Fresh website. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. When we start planning for the school tastings, the first thing we do is we just sit down with a calendar and we just kind of map out when are all the school holidays. Obviously, if the kids aren't in school, they won't be tasting the item. The next thing we do is we partner with our school nutrition office to talk about when they're planning on menuing the item. Typically, they look at the second or third of each week, or I'm sorry, the second or third week of each month. So what we do is we back up the tasting to the week prior to when they anticipate menuing the item. You can see on this slide, we actually have a tasting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, which means it's probably going to hit the menu next week. From there, once we set the dates, we kind of work backwards to identify other important dates to kind of map this out for the whole year. So what you see here, we actually do before the school year even starts in August. We figure out when do we need to notify the schools by. Typically, we just send out a meeting invite to all of the school personnel, the front office staff, the custodians, the school nutrition director, the school managers, anyone who we think might be aware of our presence in the school. We make sure we invite them so they know what's happening at their school. 2 weeks prior to the tasting is typically when we reach out and start securing volunteers. If you reach out too soon, then it kind of gets forgotten. So we try to do it when it would be fresh in their minds. The other thing we look at when planning for it is when we need to order the items. We look at delivery schedules and then figure out from there when we need to place the order so that it's delivered in time for the tasting. As you know, there's typically set days that deliveries come out. And so we have to work backwards from that. And so one of the things I had shared with Lena is I'm happy to share any of these templates and documents with anyone. Just reach out to me and I'll put my email likewise in the chat afterwards. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Some other things to consider if you're looking to do a tasting in your school is we need to identify the vendors and order the ingredients. We kind of talked about ordering the ingredients, but we didn't mention the vendors on the previous page. We also have to get a copy of the lunch schedule. So typically we arrive about 30 minutes prior to the start of lunch to get all set up. So we need to know when the students are coming into the cafeteria. The other thing we do is we work with the school nurse. We provide him or her a copy of the recipe so we can identify if there's any students with allergies. And that's where requesting the lunch schedule is also key so that we know which students coming into the cafeteria have which allergies. And we have a system in place where we put a cone on the table so that we pause and make sure we identify who the child is so we don't serve a child something that they may be allergic to. We also coordinate details with the school nutrition department, making sure that they're aware that we're coming, talking about the plan if we have leftover items and access to the kitchen. Some of the items are prepared on site, so we work closely with the school nutrition managers on that. As we prepare for the tastings, as I mentioned before, we do use volunteers, and our master gardeners have been pivotal with that. So we reach out to them. We also bring in some part-time staff. So we have some folks that come in and just help us with tasting. So we coordinate those details with them. And then lastly, as we're preparing for the tasting and getting ready, we're looking at what supplies do we need and packing those supplies for the event. And that's kind of what we'll go on into in the next slide. If you want to go ahead and turn that. As we were preparing for today's workshop, we kind of identified things that you really need to have to do a tasting versus hey, over the years, these are the things we've started to add that certainly help us. So as far as the must-haves, educational resources, what we do is we take those posters that you saw on our first set of slides and we print them into like 8.5 by 11. And that's what we use when we walk around and we talk to the students and educate them. So we give them some nutritional information. We show them some different ways that they might see it in their environment and talk to them about some ways they might be able to make it at home. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you need the lunch schedule. You need to know when the students are coming in and at what times. The allergy list, that's typically what we get from the school nurse. Cups and utensils, it's kind of nice to not have the kids eating with their hands. So we go ahead and put the servings into little cups and give them forks or sporks as well. Typically, we pack gloves in our kit as well because we're serving obviously to the children, and then parchment paper to line the trays for the samples as we take those around. So those are the things that we have to have when we do the tastings. What we have found just from experience, it's nice to have a folding wire cart because we can put the tasting items on the cart and push it up and down the aisles as we're engaging with the children. Coolers are helpful for transporting the items and keeping them either hot or cold from the kitchen to when we serve the children. We actually use iPads now. We've taken our life cycle videos, and typically we have those playing while the children are either waiting for us to come and serve them, or after we've served them, we have the iPads kind of just propped up at each end of the cafeteria table, so the children can kind of see the life cycle while they're actually experiencing and tasting the item. Menu holders. So we've taken menu holders and we've put in our educational resources inside of them. And that way we can kind of easily flip between the different resources that we have available. Wipes are actually helpful because the children love to touch the iPads when you're leaving them on the tables. So we have found that helpful. Clipboard, reward stickers, aprons, allergy cones. So those are just some things that have helped us run the program a little bit smoother, but certainly are optional as you're looking at creating your own tasting in your schools. You can go ahead and go to the next one. The day of the tasting, this is actually what one of our tastings look like. You can see Darby is the one kind of hunched over. She's got the informational item inside the menu holder that I referenced previously. And then the lady next to her is one of our volunteers, actually offering up the sampling to the child. So Darby's going around educating the children, and then someone follows behind and offering them the sample of the item. Before we even start the tasting, three of the main things we do. The first is coordinate the storage of the item with our school nutrition managers and how to keep the item at the proper temperature, whether that's keeping it warm or keeping it cold. So as soon as we arrive on site with the item, that's one of the first things that our staff does. The other thing our staff does is goes to the school nurse, because inevitably somebody has moved in prior to us doing it, reaching out to them previously. So we just make sure that there's no changes to the allergies or no new students that we need to be aware of. And then the other thing we do is we have different roles that everyone plays at the tasting. So we have someone and their sole job is to be in charge of the allergies. Seems a little bit extreme, but you can't be too careful. And so that person has a whole system in place where they have a cone, the teacher comes in, they identify the teacher, identify the student, put the cone on the table, and then they are tasked with watching the tasting at that table to ensure that child isn't given the item. Someone's in charge of photographs. So that person identifies if we have any children that we're not allowed to take photographs of, and we make sure that we have a system for marking that table. And but anyone else, we try to capture the tasting. Someone just like Darby in the picture is in charge of the education. So they go around and share the nutritional information about the item. And then as you can see, we have a volunteer in this picture in charge of the serving, and then someone comes behind them and handles the voting. And I'll go on that when I have a picture. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. But essentially what we're asking is, does the child like the item? Is the child say, it's okay, or no thanks, not my favorite? We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So in the top left, you can see we've got some volunteers and some staff that are getting the items ready for us. So this is an example of what it would look like. And you can see an example of the trays we use and the serving cups. Actually, the bottom left as well is showing the same type. Top middle, you can see Darby is showing it's a different tasting and a different poster, but again, educating the children on the item. And again, she's got a volunteer behind her serving the children the item. And you can kind of see the volunteers pushing the cart in the background. Down below, I think that one's self-explanatory. The children are tasting the item. And actually, I've got people covering my screen, so let me pull that. On the top right, you can see how we use the iPads to show the life cycle video and how we prop them up and just let them run while we're talking to the children. And then in the bottom right, you can see it's just an app that we use for free. And we just go around after the children have tried the item to just find out if they liked it, they didn't like it. And it's amazing as you're going around talking to the children, whether or not they liked it. If they start hearing a bunch of friends liked it and they didn't try it, a lot of times that peer pressure kicks in, and that child that was a little reluctant to try it then goes ahead and tries it. So that kind of captures the gist of the tastings. And then the next slide just goes into what we do afterwards. There we go. So after the tasting's over, we try to share photos on social media for a variety of reasons. One, we are a grant-funded program, so we want to document the work that we're doing. We also find that this is a great way to share with parents what's going on in the schools so that they can see what their children are experiencing. You know, that age-old, what'd you do in school today? Nothing. We're trying to get that conversation going and see what the children have tried during the day. After the tasting, obviously, we unpack the supplies and identify what needs to be restocked. We record the tasting data. So that's one of the ways that we report out our program impact is we look at the number of children served, and then we also look at the acceptability rate of the item. And then finally, we send out thank yous, both to the school personnel as well as our volunteers, because the reality is we couldn't do it without them. And so we want to make sure that they know that we appreciate their support and their help to help us make the program successful to positively impact the children in our schools. And that is all I've got. So I will go ahead. Actually, I think the next slide just gives our website. All of the posters that I showed in the beginning are available for free download at our website. If you go to fauquierfresh.org and /eats, you will find all of this information there. We're happy to share anything. And if anyone gets there and it's not in a resource or in a format that you need, just shoot us an email. We've got a Gmail at the bottom, and I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to share anything we've got. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, and so while we have Kristen kind of the focus right after she's done her talk, are there any questions that folks have that are on the call today, on the webinar, that you'd like to ask? This is really great. I mean, a lot of really great information here.
Hi, Kristen. I'd like to know about maybe your approach with the school nutrition specialist. I haven't had a lot of luck like getting an in there unless maybe like one reached out to me I had reached out in April and one reached out to me in October regarding farm to school month. But other than that, I really haven't had a lot of opportunity, but I would like to try to do some of our programming there that is similar in my county, in Pennsylvania County, similar food tastings and demonstrations and education.
Sure. It all comes down to building relationships. I'm fortunate, actually, our school nutrition director is on the call. We work really closely with them. And before we even tried putting tastings in the school, we were building relationships with the managers and just talking to them about how we could go about something like this, which wouldn't negatively impact them, which wouldn't be too intrusive in their kitchens. And so we try to be really mindful of the shared space and finding the best way. But I can't stress enough, it's the communication and the talking, because inevitably, if we're successful, they're successful. If we can get the child to try the item before they see it on the line, then the child's going to more likely to take that item when it's on the line, which would positively impact their programming. So I think the big thing is if you can get any face time with the school nutrition director, I think that's your ace in the hole there, is just to get that conversation started. Because I know when Sue Ann joined our school system, things just exploded in what we were able to do with farm to school.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experience.
And if you want to shoot me an email afterwards, I can give you any of our planning guides if that helps with starting to tackle it, because I think sometimes it's a big beast to kind of take apart.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? And we will have time at the end, of course, for more questions for folks. So.
All right. I'm Megan Dyer. I'm the 4-H agent in Page County. And today I'm going to be talking about two of our programs we have going on here. So the first one is Read for Health. This is a program that I conduct in first grade classrooms, and it's adapted from the Maryland Extension Read for Health curriculum. So we partner with our school nutrition services to kind of create a literacy and nutrition program within the classroom. So it pairs well really with our first grade deliverables and SOLs. And so what we do is we go in and we read a book about food, nutrition, physical fitness, and pair a tasting with that book. So some of the books that we utilize are DW the Picky Eater, IQ Gets Fit, Tops and Bottoms, really any age-appropriate book that covers gardening, fitness, or food. And so we pair those books with the most appropriate food that goes along with them. But it has a lot of great flexibility. So if, say, we have an allergy, we typically can replace those foods so that we don't have to worry about serving a child anything that they might be allergic to. So we play around with the different foods that we offer just based on allergens in the school, but also the season, because me and the nutrition director for our public schools, we have a very similar passion for local foods. And so pretty much all of the produce that we utilize in this program comes within 20 miles of Page County. And so we have been able to utilize a lot of produce from local producers, but then also even some produce from our community gardens here in the county that we've worked with other groups to establish. And even sometimes we can even pull from the school gardens that we've helped establish. And so the kids get really excited when it's a day where it's something that they've helped grow that they're trying. But overall, we go in and we read a book and have like a little lesson and kind of debrief on that book, and then try our food. So this has been a really long-standing program in Page County, and it's actually one that our teachers really enjoy. They often email me before I can get my school programs for the year out to them. They are typically ready to go and are excited for this program. We do go in once a month to every first grade classroom, and depending on the year, sometimes with the schedule, they can give me 20 minutes, sometimes they can give me 40. So we really partner and change up lessons based on the times that we have. And so we are able to kind of alter based on what the teacher's needs are. And so we also like to extend that learning outside of the classroom, just like Kristen said. When kids get home, what did you do at school today? Nothing, or I don't know. So we send home newsletters about every other month, so that parents can extend that learning at home. We also challenge the kids to try a new food before we come back so that we can talk about it. So I've ran into a lot of kids at my local grocery store that are asking their parents, hey, what's that? Can we get that? And let's try it, and like expanding what foods they're used to eating. And we've also been able to hear back from a lot of our teachers who have said, we have your program, and then the next day we notice in the lunch line that these kids are talking about something that they see and they're going to try it for the first time, and they're increasing the fruits and vegetables on their plate. And so it's been a really exciting program. We actually just got back. We had this program last week, and one of my teachers, it was her first time having this program, and she said, hey, I've got 4 kids that are really sensitive about food. They typically eat the same thing every day. Please don't be offended if they don't try what you've brought. And I was like, yeah, no worries. Like we ease kids into this. And by the end of our time in that classroom, all 4 of them had tried what we had brought. And so we do have rules for our taste test, and they're pretty simple. So we introduce our taste test saying that we're going to use our 5 senses. So we start by smelling it. We start by touching it. We listen for the crunch when we bite it. So we really ease kids into this food's not so scary because they get to experience it and have some sensory play with it. And so our 3 rules are no rude words. We don't yuck other people's yums. So if somebody doesn't like something, they don't have to finish it, but we don't talk negatively about it. Everybody tries 1 bite, and then we wait for everybody, because when we read our book and we go back to our seats, the first thing a lot of kids want to do when they're excited is throw it in their mouth, and we slow that process down, and that also increases kids' confidence to try things that they haven't tried before. So that is the first program that I was going to talk about today. And if there's any questions on this one in particular, I'm happy to share the curriculum with anyone that is interested. But the second program, which is on my next slide, that we have is our CCLC After School Nutrition Program. So the CCLC stands for the 21st Century Community Learning Center. We have 3 of them here in Page County. 2 of them are at elementary schools, and 1 of them is at one of our middle schools. And this after school program is grant funded by VDOE. And we typically offer a variety of programs in this after school program, such as STEM, cooking, agriculture, and civic engagement. And I typically choose what topics we are focusing on for the full semester based on the needs identified by the teachers who run the CCLC program. And so this semester, we are highlighting a program that I've been super excited about. It's called the Power Bar Challenge. So this is in particular is a really great way to initially get the door open to conversation with our school nutrition program because it's really low buy-in for them. It's not a ton of commitment and it's not a ton of resources on their end, but it's a great way, again, to start those conversations for future partnership and future programs. So the Power Bar Challenge is basically we're working with kids second grade to 5th grade. And we started just by talking about our nutritional needs, what we need to fuel our bodies, what we need in our bodies to keep energy up all day, to give us power. And so we started with that, and then we did introduction to recipe making. So we split kids into groups of 4 or 5, and they started making their own recipe based on what they had learned, what they think would keep them full throughout the day. So getting those breakfast bars, what we would need in them to keep our stomachs full so that we can learn. And so we started talking about ratios and measurements, and we really like peanut butter and we really like Skittles, but do they go well together? No. And so figuring out what works together, what is good for our bodies versus what tastes good, and those things aren't exclusive of one another. And so we've been able to work on that. And in the picture on the slide is actually from last week, where we tried out our recipes for the first time. So what we did is we took the recipes kids have worked on and went shopping for the ingredients. And then we set up our store in the cafeteria. So teens had to come up and go shopping for their ingredients for when they made their recipes. And this was the test round so that they could make adjustments to their recipes to realize that a cup of maple syrup not only doesn't taste good in your power bar, it makes it like soup. And so we were able to make those adjustments and have those learning by doing moments. And then the next phase, as we continue to improve the recipe, is marketing. Realizing when you go into the grocery store, things that are geared towards kids and what's on those labels and different things, and what bright colors and fun characters do for it. And so the next phase is they're creating their own marketing. A lot of our 4th and 5th graders are actually writing their script for their commercials that they'll be making for their power bars. And so as we continue to work on this project and they finish their recipe, we'll be doing a parent night with CCLC, where we're inviting all the parents of the participants in, and the kids will have their billboards and their which are posters, of course, and then we will have iPads playing their advertisements, and the parents can go around and get samples of what the kids have made and vote on what their favorite is. And the winner of that will actually be featured on the breakfast menu at school. And so the kids are super excited about that, but it's also a great way to get in the door with some of our school's nutrition programs because, again, it's low buy-in. All they had to do is agree to make this recipe one day for breakfast. And so it's something that they've gotten on board with and our kids are really engaged with. And so those are 2 of our nutrition programs that we have been pretty excited about this school year. And that is all I have.
That's fantastic. some great ideas there. There was a question for you. Do you have a list of the books you have used? And if
Yes.
so, can people get that?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I don't have it on my computer. I'm a paper person, but I am happy to scan it and send it over for you. But yeah, we run this program once a month in each classroom from October to May. So we have a total of 8 books, but I typically will switch out different books just depending on, oh, we can't get this, this fruit is unavailable, they can't order it, there's not enough, then we'll switch it out with another book so that we can pair it. But I'm happy to include that list.
okay. As a follow-up to that, the question also was, do they change each year? So it sounds like there's a list of books, and then would that change each year that this is presented, or?
So we do this program in first grade classrooms, so you can leave it the same each year. I typically will switch some things up again, just depending on the availability of what produce at the time. Sometimes you think it's going to be no problem getting celery, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, we had to use that and this other thing over here, because the nice part about this program is we partner with our nutrition services at our school, and they actually provide the food for us. We tell them what we need, they order it and get it to us in advance so that we can do this program. And so I actually don't purchase the food. So sometimes we have to make adjustments based on what they're available to have.
Okay. Right. Great. Well, let's open it up for both for Megan and for Kristen in terms of questions that others might have for them. This has been fantastic because it's very much a practical thing, and I think that's something that we always are looking for, is how can I make this happen within my school. So some of the themes, you were talking about relationships. So I kind of want to follow up on that with both of you. How did you kind of get started in what you're doing? I know Fresh has been around a while, but what kinds of steps were taken to kind of make those initial relationships happen? And working with the school nutrition director, you mentioned that, how important that was. So I'd be curious what you'd have to say. And then Megan, with the work that you're doing, how did you actually do that program in the schools? And how did you kind of start that process?
They can go,
Kristen,
or do you want me to
first?
go?
You can go ahead.
All right. Lots of meetings, lots of, hey, you got a few minutes? Can we just have a conversation? And just kind of hearing people out, hearing where some of the barriers are, and then coming back with solutions rather than coming back with problems. I think that's been the biggest thing for us, is just giving folks the time to talk and then hearing, how can we be value added to them? What are some of the barriers they're having? And then kind of stepping away as a team, brainstorming solutions and coming back. And I think for us, the key is to run the program within our program so that we're not asking for them to do one more thing. Yes, we're asking for access to the kitchen, we're asking to use space, but as far as the manpower needed, we try to do all of that internally and with volunteers. I think that's what's helped us be successful.
Yeah, I would say the same thing is our programs are pretty low buy-in. So like with Read for Health, yes, they order the food, but I let them know 2 weeks in advance before we do the program what we're going to need for that month. And then they ship it to one school. I pick it up, I do the prep work, and then we're ready to go into the classroom. So they're not expected to cut anything up or use any manpower or supplies. We do that here and then go back into the schools with everything prepped and individually cut. So any way that we can minimize their manpower, anything like that, and anytime we can take a load off of them. And that's what really the goal. I would say the biggest thing when it comes to starting programs within the school is your teachers are your biggest cheerleaders. So I have been able to meet teachers in our community. Some of them, their kids are in our community clubs and different things. And they will go to their school nutrition programs on our behalf or anything like that. I've even had some go to the superintendent about, hey, we want this program back. Let's schedule something. And so they have really been our biggest cheerleader and support. And thankfully, we have a really great school system, superintendent, nutrition program manager. They're all super on board with programs back in the schools, especially after COVID. Our programs really did pause during COVID restrictions. And so a lot of it has just been having conversations and letting your teachers advocate for you.
Great.
I was
Great.
just going to add one other thing too, just saying thank you. I think sometimes, we get busy in the day and we get busy doing things. And I think if anyone doesn't hear thank you enough, it's our school nutrition folks. And so just going to them and just saying, hey, thanks for letting us use our space or your space. And thanks for letting us do this. And we always do like a handwritten note. I'm like, I feel like my grandmother's kind of in the back of my ear, even to this day, but it's kind of like a dying thing right now. And I think sometimes when they actually get real mail and you're saying thank you, we appreciate it, I think that helps. And little things like when there's leftovers, give it to your staff, give it to your folks, like just kind of being mindful of, hey, these are people that are working really hard. What are some tokens of appreciation that we can say thanks with?
Great advice.
Absolutely. One of the programs I didn't mention in here, but we do teen cuisine at one of our middle school after school programs. And so we were able to get a mini grant. And part of the deliverable was providing a community service piece of it. And so what we did, the kids brainstormed different options of what they could do. And what they decided to do was use some of the grant money to go grocery shopping to do a meal kit, where all of the things you needed to make a meal, the recipe, and all of the serving spoons and different things like that came in a bag. And we actually gave it to the people that made the program possible, different teachers that were a part of that program, the lunch ladies that stayed after to have that space available. So absolutely making sure that the people involved feel appreciated for what they do is a huge benefit.
Really great advice. Other questions that folks have here? We still have got about 5-10 minutes here, so I'd love to, open it up for y'all. Got some real experts here who have done some great work. So if somebody was getting started in this, what would be your suggestion to doing that? I mean, we've talked some about the relationship building. Like, I'm curious about the funding for it, like what pays for that to happen. And how might you suggest it, like if somebody was starting from scratch and they had to do this?
So, oh, you can go ahead, Kristen, if you're, oh, okay. So a lot of our programs are pretty low cost. Again, being able to partner where they're providing the food is a huge benefit for us. But there's also a lot of great mini grants out there. And you don't have to do a program that costs a ton of money. A ton of money does not mean a ton of impact. And so you can have a big impact at a low cost. And so again, these are tastings. They're an apple slice or a cherry tomato kind of thing. There's smaller servings just to get kids interested in the foods. And so I would say don't be afraid to start small. If you are want to do a program in a classroom, get one teacher on board and do a pilot. Because again, your teachers are your biggest advocates and they're going to talk to one another. So if that program is super successful in one classroom, they're going to tell their friends. And those teachers are going to want to get on board the next year, and you can continue to grow from there.
And I would just add, don't be afraid to ask. Our program was entirely grant funded in the beginning, but, just through conversations with our school nutrition director, some of those costs they're taking on because of exactly what Megan said, it's not a huge amount of food. I mean, it's, compared to what they're used to producing when we're asking for a small tasting, it doesn't have a huge impact on their budget. So I would say, don't be afraid to have that conversation and say, hey, can we try this? Or look at something that they're already serving that day. Chances are good there might be some extra. Could that be served out to students to give them a chance to try it? The other thing I'd say is do your research and find out what's already been created, because obviously when we started, they didn't have the whole Harvest of the Month program, but there's tons of resources that have already been created. So I would just say, before you start creating something unique, see what's already done. And, most of the stuff is available at no cost.
Yes, and I will put the plug in for the toolkit. So for those of you, I don't know if y'all, well, we had a picture of it, but the toolkit is the Virginia Farm to School Toolkit. This is available on the Virginia Department of Education website. And this is really fantastic because it gives a lot of really great resources, including one I'm thinking of is Harvest of the Month, Ag in the Classroom. And many of those have some really great materials. And this also gives a lot of great resource options. So please avail yourself of that because it's great information that's out there. And this is really why this came to be, was to kind of follow up with that. But any other questions folks might have? You've mentioned impact, and I was really curious, like like you do the numbers of how many kids like this or don't like that, but how do you actually measure your impact? And as you're preparing that information to share with, board of supervisors and school administrations and all those folks, the superintendents and that kind of thing, how do you actually tell that story? Do you have suggestions on that?
I can go. So one thing that I do is obviously the kids vote if they liked or didn't like something. But in those newsletters, I include a small link. So if parents want to give feedback on the conversations they're having with their kids at home, they can provide that to us. But then I also ask each of my teachers every year to fill out a short survey to ask what they're noticing after we leave. Those teachers help supervise lunch and they talk about it after I'm gone. And so I ask that they give feedback on what they see with their students as well.
Similarly, we look at the number of students impacted. So how many students tried it? And then we do break it down to whether they liked it, they didn't like it. We also are in the process of starting to see like website hits, like how many people go back to our website after being exposed to this to pull, whether it's the recipe, the video. And so we're starting to watch the views of our different, or either the hits to the website or the views of the different documents. And then also just having conversations. I think just getting feedback from folks, some of the best suggestions you get are through those one-on-one conversations by just talking to somebody in passing. And then all of a sudden it sparks an idea that kind of gets the momentum going. So that's primarily where we have gotten our research, or so to say, that we use when presenting and selling what we're trying to do.
Okay, great.
I will say
Great.
with the conversation piece, it's especially as a 4-H agent, it's also a great way to expand the programs you're doing. Luckily, one of the classrooms I go to right after I'm in there, the kids go to specials. So I always try to hang out for a few minutes to be able to talk to the different teachers that are available to see what kind of programs they're interested in, something that I can offer for them. And it's actually led, we're starting a new Clover Bud Club here in the county because one of those teachers was interested in that. And it actually recruited a new volunteer by accident, just having those conversations of interest. And they're like, I really love this in-school program, but I have a younger child. What is there for 4-H for them? And I mentioned, during COVID, our Clover Bud Club ended and we're trying to get that back off the ground. And immediately she was like, well, I have friends that are interested too. Can we be volunteers? Can we lead that club? And so teachers are also really great volunteers as well. And so just having those conversations, you never know what kind of doors can be opened.
And one other thing I would just throw out there, don't underestimate the value of a partnership. A lot of times when I go out and talk to, new potential partners, a lot of times I don't have anything tangible that I can offer them, but I can offer them exposure. Like, I can't pay you for this, but I can do a shout out on social media to say, hey, we've just partnered with this agency and this is how they're helping the schools. And now all of a sudden that agency is in front of 10,000 students. So sometimes just using what you have access to show the power of what a partnership can look like, and really identifying what that partner needs versus what you need, and then showing how those two things together can make the program even stronger.
Great. Well, I want to thank our speakers again so much for your time, and really appreciate all that you've shared. Very, very practical. And we really would encourage you to check out our website. So this website is a Google site which has the webinar series, but we also have the webinar are uploaded onto a YouTube channel that you all can view. So if you want to see this one, once we get it edited, it'll be a little bit of time, but all the ones we've had before now, and we are planning to have these published on the extension website, so that will be available. But for now, at least these are housed there and you can find them. And so we'd like to thank you all again for joining us. And we really look forward to hearing all about your great stories in the future. And this is the end of our series. This is the last one for December. And but it's been great to do this. We've covered everything that was in the toolkit. And as you can see, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much that's going on in Virginia, and Farm to School is growing more and more and more. And I just want to do a shout out to B Thorpe. And B, I don't know if you'd like to just say a final word, because you were a primary partner in us being able to do this. So
Oh, I mean, the shout out is all to you all, the Cooperative Extension Farm to School program team that worked so hard on convening such really amazing partners to demonstrate the great work that's happening throughout Virginia and share best practices. It's such a valuable resource to have all these recorded webinars to share with people who are interested in working on these activities. So hats off to you all and your team and everyone that was, sharing their experiences and their programs on these webinars.
thank you. Well, and we would encourage you again to visit the Farm to School, the Virginia Department of Education website, where they have the Farm to School resources, and Extension is developing more and more on that as well. So we really appreciate our partnership with Department of Education, with all of you. We couldn't do it without you. So that concludes our webinar today, and thank you again so much to our excellent speakers today and sharing your passion and stories with us. So thank you.